She calls her arrest humiliating.
I was scared.
And the criminal charges that landed her in a Detroit detention center earlier this year, devastating.
I was going through a panic attack.
Portia Woodruff says she was 8 months pregnant back in February. That's when a group of Detroit police officers showed up to her home saying she was being arrested for carjacking and robbery. Serious crimes Woodruff and her attorney Ivan Land say she never committed.
This is sickening.
According to a lawsuit they just filed against the city of Detroit and a police detective, Woodruff claims the investigators' use of faulty facial recognition technology led to her wrongful arrest.
And just like we knew, and just like we said, police departments should not be using facial recognition because it's just going to exacerbate the racial profiling problems that already exist in this country. Who can imagine what level of trauma must she have been going through? Think about this, to know that she was being arrested while being notably, she was 8 months pregnant, y'all, 8 months pregnant. And if that isn't enough, she was being arrested for committing an armed robbery at a place she had never been to. Not once had she ever visited the location. So we ask, if she's never been there, how did the authorities get a photo of her? How were they able to find her? How were they able to deduct that she was indeed their carjacking suspect? How, you ask, Mundell? Well, check it out.
According to the lawsuit, the victim's stolen cell phone was returned back here to this gas station. Detectives also picked up surveillance video here, but Woodruff says she's never even visited this place. Land says DPD's facial recognition tools found a 7-year-old photo of Woodruff. They say the carjacking victim, who told police he'd been drinking, picked Woodruff's photo in a lineup. Land said the detective ignored the fact Woodruff was noticeably pregnant.
They're not equipped to deal with facial recognition.
Now, Ray, you know damn well this is a scene right out of every mother or soon-to-be mother's nightmare catalog. The lack of care for anyone involved in this situation is so apparent. No pun intended. First, the fact that the gentleman that was robbed told the police he had been drinking says a lot. And I can only assume how that conversation went. Oh, officer, I can't really pick her out. I've had a few drinks. And on top of that, when has it been okay that we've started allowing cops to use virtual lineups to pick people out, coupled with the facts and the words of a drunk man? What is going on? This is never gonna be okay. We especially know and understand the technology that is that of facial profiling. We know it. We know that they don't use blackface to create these algorithms. So when they see them, we know that they look like strangers and they are already setting off alerts. So the idea that an institution talking about policing in America is given this tool to do nothing but profile people without their consent, people will continue to be in these situations. Ray, tell me why Blue Lives Matter. Please make me understand how this is good policing.
Well, I would just say that they don't. I'll also, just add, I mean, none of us can, I'm sure that there's people out there, but none of us specifically can imagine the horror that this woman had to endure while 8 months pregnant, noticeably pregnant, being, arrested by the police. And thinking in that moment that she might have to give birth to her child in a prison hospital and then be separated from her baby at the beginning of its life for a crime she absolutely didn't do, for a period of time where she didn't even know why they were trying to arrest her. I'll also add that studies have shown that facial recognition software is particularly ineffective as it pertains to registering black faces, because a lot of the teams that design these facial recognition programs have no black computer science engineers on the teams. So this sort of, AI computer facial recognition software could easily just use another black person's face, because they have not really been designed to recognize darker skinned individuals. So, there's so many ways that this could go wrong. And we already have a systemically racist institution of policing. So just to add another racist element into it, and it's horrifying. So now not only do black Americans have to be afraid that the police are gonna shoot them for minding their own business, now they have to be afraid that a computer is gonna tell them to go and find them, to seek them out in the comfort of their own homes, to do it even more. It's mortifying.
Yeah, look, I'll give you some anecdotal stuff, and then, but Ray's right. The studies have already shown that they misidentify people of color more, and so this is very problematic. So, look, I've lived in New Jersey where I would often be greeted with "Paisan." I've lived in Miami where people were offended I didn't speak Spanish because they were positive I was Cuban. Lived in LA where they're positive I'm Persian. And even before I got a tiny bit of fame, everybody would always say, "You look like my cousin. You look like someone I know." This is not a great way to do policing. Jimmy Yang's a great comic. He was in Crazy Rich Asians in Silicon Valley. He has a couple of jokes about it on his show, where he says he looks like Aquafina. He jokes around about that, and then he has a great little thing about how he mistook two white people for that are very similar looking actresses, etc. Look, I know you don't need the anecdotes because you know it in your own life. People look alike, and you also know it because of the studies. So we got to do real policing. This facial recognition software, pulling innocent people aside because the computer thinks they might be someone else, is a problem for all of us. But it turns out, unfortunately, like a lot of things, particularly for minorities.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't even need to pretend that this is news or new news, right? Because 3 years ago, ACLU and other grassroots organizations were already screaming about this problem and how bad it was gonna go. We knew that facial recognition was not the way to go as it pertains to creating a healthy relationship between communities of color and police. We knew that. So check out what we saw right here. Alex Hijib for Harvard already told us we unlock our iPhones with a glance and wonder how Facebook knew to tag us in a photo. But face recognition, the technology behind these features is more than just a gimmick. It is employed for law enforcement, surveillance, airport passenger screening, and employment and housing decisions. That's disgusting. Despite widespread adoption, face recognition was banned for use by police and local agencies in several cities, including Boston and San Francisco. Why? Because of all of the dominant biometrics in use, fingerprint, iris, palm, voice, and face recognition is the least accurate, and it's rife with privacy concerns. And I think, Cenk, you and Rage did a wonderful job of laying those out. Like, what are we doing when we're saying, somebody can walk up to you and say, "You look like my cousin," or "You look like the person that just robbed me," even though you have an 8-month baby growing inside of you and that person didn't. It's enough for me to get a warrant and arrest you for armed robbery. It is absolutely scary that we find ourselves at this problem. And then the problem is only made more true when you have darker skin. The same article about Harvard also quotes a study done by Gender Shades Project, and that study revealed some damning information. Face recognition algorithm boasts high classification of accuracy, over 90% allegedly. But these outcomes are not universal. A growing body of research exposed divergent error rates across demographics, with the poorest accuracy, of course, as we knew, consistently found in subjects who are female, Black, and 18 to 30-year-olds. This article further states that in landmark study in the same state project, an intersectional approach was applied to these 3 gender classification algorithms, including those developed by IBM and Microsoft. And guess what they found? Just what you both said. So we don't need this anecdotal, but it's important to say it because people will say, "Cenk's just saying that, Ray's just saying that." But we found that darker skinned females, darker skinned males have more likely to be mischaracterized than lighter skinned people. And if we're talking about the female, like the woman in this case, she's 34% more likely to be wrongly identified than a lighter skinned male. That means if you are a Black woman, you are 34% more likely to be misidentified than a white male. Cenk, why are our police departments using this technology? Why?
Yeah, so look, they obviously shouldn't. This one's kind of an open and shut case. That doesn't mean they're gonna stop. It just means that it's clearly not fair. Not the right way to go. Again, for all races, but particularly in how it affects minorities. But guys, it's not just law enforcement. Listen to what Mondale just told you. Like, at least in law enforcement, you get your day in court and you get a lawyer, etc. If they're using this in employment and housing, you're never even gonna know that they discriminated against you while they thought you were a completely different person. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say that, like so many other things that the police employ, other practices that they're not supposed to but do. I'm actually really surprised that she was aware that they used the facial recognition software, because I was sure that they would be trying as possible, because I was just writing a paper at the end of law school about a case where the police employed a special technology that was illegal for them to use. They knew it was illegal for them to use, so they did everything they possibly could to bury their usage of it. We know that they've been using this technology even in places where they're not supposed to. We know that they will continue to. So it's important, when organizations like the ACLU bring these lawsuits, that we can have, stricter standards for them and actual repercussions when they are found out to be using something we all have known and still know they absolutely should not be using, for not just its level of inaccuracy, but for the total invasion of our privacy.
Yeah, great point.
I think it's those are great points. I think it's also important to know that this was a perfect storm. How many cases have we not caught these police in doing this, right? We know it was a perfect storm in that they used a picture that was 7 years old. So she's probably started asking questions. I've never been there. How they get this picture? And I think her lawyer probably put 2 and 2 together, because you're right. They definitely try to cover this up. Definitely something we should definitely keep an eye out for.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.